Okay guys, this will be my installation, well rather assembly guide for the Highspeed PC XL ATX top deck tech station that I have for my personal use now, or well rather my tech tips use. So I'm going to show you guys step by step what to do. The first thing is you will need a Phillips head screwdriver. They recommend a powered one, but I don't have one, so I'll be using this one. Next, you should compare all of the parts included with the reference in the instruction manual here to make sure that everything's included. If it's not there, email support@highspeedpc.com. All right, finally, you can get started. You should clear a desk, give yourself room, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so step one, assemble the test bench feet. For this step, you will use the 4 rubber feet, 4 stainless washers, and 4 1-inch screws that look like this. You'll position the feet over the guide holes right here. Position the screw, and then you will screw them in until they just barely poke through. You're going to tighten it the rest of the way later on when you attach the upright posts. I'm going to show you guys how deep I'm going to go. So just about like that, so where you have a little bit exposed. The next step is pretty straightforward. We're going to install the motherboard rubber standoff guys. Okay, so basically you're going to screw these down tight enough that the rubber doesn't rotate anymore, but not so tight that the rubber starts to pucker. Because if you drive down tight enough, you can put the screw right through the rubber and you may ruin the rubber standoff. Now, for a couple of the holes, so invariably this one up here, which is going to be the top of where your motherboard is mounted, and all the way through, there we go. And then sometimes this one, and sometimes this one, you're going to put these 2 nylon screws, and then you're going to hand thread down a rubber standoff. And this is to hold the board in place, because the threads on these guys, here, hopefully I can get this to focus. See the threads on here? Will keep the board from slipping off. Okay, so just hand tight on there. So you put it here for MATX, here for ATX, and here for XL and HPTX. So I'm going to show you guys quickly. This is what it looks like if you over tighten it. See how it starts to flare out at the bottom? So I'm just going to untighten that one and put it back right where it's supposed to be. So there. Can't turn the rubber, can't do that. Okay. And finally, see these little nuts right here? I never ever use them, but in theory, after you put a motherboard on, you can screw this on to hold the motherboard in place more permanently. Next step is to install the fan bracket. So we're going to use these little guys, and we are going to do fan 1 first. Please focus, there we go. So you just flip this guy over, put it like that, and then drive the screw into this is going to be the bottom of the top deck. So you can see the nylon washers poking through here. So that is where the back of the motherboard will be, on the other side of this piece. And just like that. These ones I do pretty tight, just because I'm often doing weird stuff like hanging radiators off them and whatnot. Don't do them super tight right now, because you're going to want to have a little bit of give when you're installing your fans, and then you can crank it a little bit later. Then you just repeat that process for fans 2 and 3 respectively. For this next step, the hard drive stopper, you will need the spacer, the stopper right there. It goes right there. So just to show you guys, I have the fans on now already. And you will need the slightly longer screw that looks like this. Put that in there and then screw it in. The next step is installing the hard drive rails. So my older tech stations don't come with the option for 2.5 inch, but the new ones do. So regardless, you put in this one. So you can see you use a nylon spacer right here. You use a screw, and then you use the plastic rail, which is going to hold onto the drives like this. See, like so. So you'll either put your 2.5 inch drive in there, or you'll put your 3.5 inch drive in there. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Now it is imperative that you don't over tighten this screw right here. Like you see, this doesn't move much. Remember, it's not holding up the world. It's just holding up a couple of drives. So you make sure it's not moving around, but I can still spin the washer in here, or the nylon spacer in here freely, so don't like crank it tight. I'm gonna do mine for 3.5 inch because SSDs are not much of a problem to just stuff between your optical drive and your power supply. Not to mention that if you drop an SSD while you're moving your text station, it's not a big deal, and if you drop a hard drive, it's pretty much dead. This next step seems a little tricky, but actually it's quite easy. You take this piece right here, which is a threaded bolt, you push it through. So remember, this is where the back of the motherboard is, where these nylon posts come through. So you're putting it through this very corner one here and the very corner one here. Then what you do is you take your shorter of your two types of posts. You put the hole at the top, because remember, that's where the expansion cards are going to eventually plug into. And you thread this one on from the top, and then you take a longer one and you thread it on from the bottom, turning at the same time. So you can see here's one that I've partially completed. I'm just going to adjust my chest cam here so I can show you guys what I'm doing. And I am twisting them both at the same time. Now, Highspeed PC mentions that it's a little bit tricky to ensure that this hole stays facing outward, and that's very important. So you want to tighten this one in all the way, then hold it outward, and tighten in the bottom one the rest of the way to make sure that it faces the right way, because you want a nice snug fit between these, otherwise your text station is going to be loose when you pick it up. For this next step, all you need is the remaining two support posts, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking those screws that we threaded ever so slightly through the bottom platform, and we are going to be screwing them into the support post. So it's quite important while you're doing this to hold the post very snugly against the text station. Please focus, Mr. Camera. Oh, come on. All right. So here, what I did was I held it between my legs. Focus, focus. Thank you. Okay. Held it between my legs like this, and then I used a screwdriver from one side, holding it snugly, and just screw that in like that. You go until the foot compresses a little bit, and then once that happens, you want to do about a half turn. So I think we're pretty much there. Holding the screw in place, do about a half turn or even a quarter turn with the support stand itself to make sure that you've got a nice snug fit against the base. It's starting to look pretty complete. I have taken my bottom portion and I've put it down on top of the top portion, just like this. I'm lining up these screws that are poking through a little bit with the holes right there, and then I'm going to tighten them down in much the same manner, being careful not to over tighten through the feet so that the washer pops out. You see the washer that's in there. All right, until I have a nice snug fit, and then it's pretty much put together, and all we're really left with is a couple finishing touches. Now I flip around the text station one more time. I put together this assembly where I have the final silver screws. We don't really have any silver screws left, a washer, and a little cap to go over it, and I'm threading those in, well, screwing those in to the final part of the two platforms that needs to be supported. So I'm just going to go till I can see it sticking through a little bit. Line that up with the hole. There, you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, and then I'm going to hold it snug and screw those in, and it's pretty much structurally complete at that point. So I'm just going to put some pressure here. I'll do this on camera since I want to show you guys one of these finishing touch steps. There, so that's nice and snug. And then I just close up that little cap, keeps that metal screw from being exposed and shorting anything out. All right, so now we're going to put that PCI support bracket on at the back where, so you can see here's where the I/O of the motherboard is. So this is where the expansion cards go. Please note that these holes are going to be closer to the motherboard rather than further away from it, or the brackets on your PCI cards will not line up. You're going to use two different screws for this one. You're going to use a sharp one that goes into this post, and then you're going to use a blunted one. Come on, let's see. Focus, focus. Whatever, you're going to use a blunted one that goes up into this nylon piece here. So you're just going to use an L bracket, position it right there, and then screw them in completely so that it's nice and tight, like I've done on this side here. Oh, and last but not least, for this piece, I'm going to put a little cap on there so it looks nice and finished, you know? There. So I'm mounting my fans. I'm putting my neoprene non-slip pad into the bottom of the tech station here. So that's where I'll put my power supply, all that good stuff, so it doesn't move around once I put it down. I'm also screwing in the fans. So fans go in just like this. Now they provide a suggestion for how to mount the fans. I believe fan mounting is very personal. So, maybe I want to take hot air away from the CPU area. Maybe I have a tower heatsink here blowing air that way. And then maybe my graphics cards are installed in the lower slot. So maybe I want to push cold air towards them. Whatever the case may be, you can install the fans however suits your personal needs. The rest of the stuff I consider optional. So these guys I mentioned before are for securing the motherboard down, which I consider highly optional. I'll just throw these away. Also, we have plastic thumb screws, which there's no way I'll use. I have my own thumb screws that I prefer that are a little bit easier to work with, because the, I don't know, they just cooperate with the threads better. See, these ones I have a little bit of trouble with. I don't really like those. And then, obviously, we've got fan screws. This is another thing that I probably won't do, but if you have curious pets or children, then it's definitely a good idea to install these fan guards, just like that. Okay, so just screw those in from the other side. Just 2 screws is good enough to secure a fan guard in place and have it not vibrate, so I would just do it like that. Remember, the whole point of this is efficiency and quick hardware testing. So there it is. That is my assembly guide for the Highspeed PC Top Deck Tech Station. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to Linus Tech Tips for more unboxings, reviews, and other computer videos.